Yes, Jude, go on.
Yes, thank you. So, Socratic questioning. This is from the group 3, which is myself, Thiagu, and Mridu. So we came up with this simple. It's a big topic, but we have tried to make it as concise as possible, and I'll take you through that. So to start off, what is this concept of Socratic questioning, right? So the quote that you see there, that kind of struck a chord with us. The highest form of human excellence is to question oneself and others, right? So that's a quote from Socrates, and I think everybody knows who Socrates is. I'm not going into the history of who Socrates is. And Socratic questioning, the process, it's basically about having a disciplined and thoughtful dialogue between two or more people, right? And it is used in teaching, counseling. It's basically a effective tool to get into the deeply held values and beliefs of a in the coaching context of a client or a coachee. In coaching, so this ideally Socratic questioning should not be goal bound or without a clear goal. It is a tool to probe deeply, right, into thoughts and beliefs and value systems. But of course, as coaches, we cannot become stuck in a Socratic mode alone. So we have to basically achieve a balance of getting into that mode of Socratic questioning, and also align to probably the models that we have seen, like Grow or Step or any other models, right? So it's a balance that we need to achieve. And the basic attributes or the main attributes of Socratic questioning are: your question should be concise, directed, and clear. Should be open but with purpose, focused but tentative, and neutral. Right. So these are the main attributes, I would say, of how you can frame how you need to frame your questions. And above all else, it should be confusion free. So if you can relate all of these attributes to your questions, it becomes confusion free. And the suggested process or steps of how you can go about using this.
Jude, may I suggest? Hello, Jude, may I suggest? So before you go into processes, okay, just kind of check in with the class if they have kind of this they've settled in with the idea of what Socratic questions are. So why don't you make it a little interactive? Yeah. Just check in, and then you can go into the process.
Sure.
Any questions for Jude? Anything that he can respond to?
Yeah.
So I have a question that Socrates is a person or it's some ideology, or what is it?
Okay, he's a philosopher.
Okay.
Socrates is he's a philosopher from I don't know which century, very very old. I think from the Greece origin, right?
Yeah.
Greece, Rome. That
around
origin.
400 BC or so.
400 BC or so. He's a very old, thinker and philosopher, basically, and he's written a lot of work in the philosophy area.
Western philosophy, yeah.
Western philosophy.
Thank you, Jude.
So he didn't really write much, but his disciples like Plato, etc., kind of documented stuff. And yeah, but he really kind of his philosophy has been hugely embraced. When it his fundamental tenets have been hugely embraced when you look at Western philosophy. Yeah.
I have a question. What is the relevance of these things to our coaching practice and process tangibly?
Very good question, Jude, and yeah. Jude will respond to that. Yeah, Jude. Yeah. What is the relevance of this?
Yes, so the relevance here is basically in a coaching context, right? We are trying to use it as a tool to get into deeply held values or belief systems, right? Sometimes your client or coach is going to get into a mode where they are stuck because of their values or belief systems which are very deeply ingrained. Right? You can use powerful questioning, but the difference between powerful questioning and Socratic questioning is that you're trying to specifically focus on value systems and clearing out value systems and beliefs held by the coachee or the client. that is a, I would say, right, so this is more like powerful questioning is like open-ended questioning, appreciative questioning. You can bring in all of that aspects into it, but here you're trying to bring in that element of philosophical questioning, right? Does that resonate with you?
No, it doesn't resonate with me. Just using philosophical question. Can you give an example? Because what is philosophy?
Right,
Because
so what I'll
Ah.
suggest is, can you please hold on until this presentation is complete,
Sure,
and
sure,
then maybe
absolutely
we
fine.
can revisit.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. So Asit, look at it, and also you look at it in terms of what is the value, how does this resonate with some of the stuff that we already know about coaching? Not so much, when we talk of philosophy, I mean, the idea is that, how it has been embraced in the field of psychology, right? And what does this do in terms of the interplay that happens between the coach and the client? Just see what is the value that it brings in.
Sure.
And then we'll work with it a little more. Yeah, Jude. Okay.
So the process or steps that we suggest is how you can use this as a tool basically in your coaching process is a 5-step process. You go through this, understanding the belief system of that the client or coach is holding. So you ask the person to state clearly their belief or argument, and then you sum up the person's argument, play back what they have said to clarify your understanding of their position, and ask for evidence, right? Ask open questions to further elicit, knowledge about or uncover assumptions or misconceptions or inconsistencies or contradictions that you want to, or you may have noticed, right? And challenge their assumptions, basically. If contradictions, inconsistencies, or exceptions or counterexamples are identified, then ask the person if to either disregard the belief or restate it more precisely, right? And repeat the process again if required until both parties accept the restated belief. The process is kind of repeated. So when you take this and apply it, so this may not be the same order that you need to apply it in a coaching context, right? So this is an overall process that we could think of, but however, this can change, or when you're actually providing or getting into a coaching conversation, you're basically doing that dancing in the moment thing, right? So this can change a bit, but as with all other models that we have seen so far, this is something that we can try and use when we are approaching a coaching conversation, if you're using Socratic questioning as a tool within your coaching conversation. And some examples around this, so maybe I'll hand over to Mridu. She can take over the examples and summarize it.
Sure. Before that, I would just like to add that Socratic questioning is a cornerstone, and it's associated with cognitive behavioral theory. And so it is very much used by counselors and therapists. But it's so powerful that we can integrate it in coaching also, and it's also called Socratic coaching. So how do we integrate it? We use it to raise awareness, promote reflection, and improve problem-solving thinking. Many of the times when we address a common issue in a coaching session, we understand that coaching has many beliefs which are attached to a situation, and to really address those beliefs is a real challenge, and to really understand if they're serving the coachee or not is a question we need to ask. For that, we have these steps that Jude made us go through, and the real change from usual counseling or therapy and coaching is that we don't have to directly ask the client whether you want to, why is it happening? What do you think? So, or we don't have to question them so that they leave their safe space. But we have to evoke awareness via our questions in such a way that they themselves realize that this assumption that I am having is not serving me well, or it might be serving me well, but there needs to be a change that needs to be there. So, these were the things I needed to highlight. And then now looking at the examples, we have to question the assumptions that are there. So usually in therapy, it's asked, why would someone assume so and so thing? But because why question puts the coachee in a very defensive zone, we would rather ask or put it in a way, is there a different assumption to this belief that you have? So helping them choose various alternatives. coming to the second point, questions of viewpoint. So helping them explore different perspectives on the same assumptions that they have. For example, we can say that if you know someone who is very emotionally intelligent in your environment, what would they think about this assumption, or how would they serve it? So helping them understand it from various perspectives so that they start realizing that, okay, maybe I need to explore something here. In the next, it's questions of clarification. So as coach, we might understand something about this belief or assumptions that they have, but maybe we are not understanding it in the best way possible. So we need to confirm it by restating it and asking the coachee that, am I understanding it in the best way possible, or helping them rephrase the same thing again. Other examples are question of implication and consequence. So really helping them understand that whatever assumption that you have, what are the implications of this belief? And also understanding the backstory, that what led you to these beliefs. Maybe some instance happened which had them think in a certain way. So is it right to have a belief based on just one instance in life? So helping them understand that, but in a very open way. Next is questions of evidence and reasoning. So many times we hold many beliefs, but when we start exploring it, we realize that it was just a belief or assumption without some really good proofs in it. So help them understand by just ask them, state an example of this assumption that you hold, or what led you to that belief. And in the end, questions regarding the origin. Have you heard this somewhere? Like, where did that belief actually come from? Maybe it came from a religious setup, or it came from a very, maybe they were raised in a certain way, to help them understand it. But in coaching, it is more important to understand that what can they do now about it, rather than focusing a lot on the backstory of it. So that is where Socratic questioning comes at use. So yeah, this is my understanding of it.
Right. So, Mridu, you want to summarize?
Okay, Mridu, are you going to take up the slide, or you're just right now leaving it as a placeholder? And are you ready to take up questions?
Yeah, I think I'm ready to take up the questions, because you can then view all the summary and then ask if there's any confusion.
So let's address
So basically, I
Asid's
think,
question.
Asid's, yeah, I think I'll go back to Dr. Asid's question, right? So this summary slide is like what, I'll just quickly read through this. So maybe I think that kind of answers his question, or, let's see if it, kind of answers his question. So Socratic questioning provides a potent method for examining ideas logically and determining their validity, right? That is one thing. And used successfully, it challenges possibly incorrect assumptions and misunderstandings, and allowing you to revisit and revise what you think and say, right? And like any other tool, it is only as good as its.
Can we request whoever is speaking to besides the presenter to unmute or to mute themselves, please? Yeah, please go on, Jude.
So like any other tool, right? It is as good as the person who uses it. And how do we, get good at it? It's you have to keep practicing it, and it requires a complete absence of ego and a level playing field for all who take part of it, or who take part in the process, right? So, and that is the process of the coaching conversation, right? We are trying to create a safe space. So if you're willing to use logical open questions without a fixed plan and are prepared to practice the technique in an effective way of exploring ideas in depth, this can be used as a very effective tool in coaching.
Okay, Anupama, you have raised your hand. Is there a question there? But and if you can just hold on, Asit, are you convinced about? Have you understood the purpose of Socratic questioning? Yeah. Okay.
I've understood the purpose, but I'm telling you, do you think a person like you who has a psychology background will be better coach?
Okay. Is that a question for Jude?
Yes. This question to you, as anybody having psychology background.
Not really. Asit, Socratic questioning let's just, the whole idea was the Socratic questioning. I mean, Socrates, what he really brought, in his times was the fundamental idea that don't take things as they are, refute them, contradict them, question them. As students, as learners, don't just take what comes, ask questions. Okay. And if you look at today, when we talk of evidence-based coaching, right? And that's what we're leading towards, right? That when we ask a client questions about their thoughts, their beliefs, one of the, and if you, one of the ideas is that there is a perception that we hold about what is happening. Right? As clients, we come with a perception. There is no real truth. There is a perceived truth. And Socratic questioning aids you to question those thoughts and beliefs, but do it in the manner that, Jude spoke about, right? Jude, if you can go back to one of those earlier slides, the tenets where you spoke about. Yeah, do it. This first one, right? Do it in an open space. Do it openly. For example, if I said that my employee comes late, he is always late, ask it. One of the, ways that typically, you may ask is, oh, is it, how many times has he really been late? Right? Now, typically, if you go by the tenets of Socratic questioning, you would say that, the idea may be that there may be some level of interrogative element or component to this. Instead, if you were to, how would you frame the question differently? And that's where if you look at the overall tenets of Socratic questions, the idea is to keep it neutral, not show judgment, keep it open, and engage the client. Okay, so one of the ideas of Socratic questioning is to say, how would you really, how have you come to, believe that this person is really coming late, for example? Or what about the client's behavior has made you feel that he is coming in late? So now you can still frame other ways of questions. But the idea is to, as you engage with the client, is there a way to keep the questions open and yet look for evidence? That's the fundamental idea. Keep some clean questions, open questions, purpose-driven questions, and look for evidence and seek evidence. So that does not need a psychology background, Asit. It's really, it's just a skilling or, just about doing it and practicing it.
When you are using grow model, I have done multiple grow model kind of coaching. So there also the questioning, listening, those basic things are there. Of course, the Socratic things, which you some specific way questioning, I do accept and acknowledge. That's all I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the Socratic questioning has, in a sense, been embraced into the coaching space, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we're studying it here.
Yeah.
Appreciative inquiry is embraced in this coaching space, and that's why we study about it, right? Or tenets of positive psychology or strength-based psychology, all of them have been embraced. We can, kind of, pick up and formulate our whole model ourselves, right? And our own unique model. But the difference between coaching and counseling is that there is a belief that there are strengths to the person. And if we can, open up those windows of opportunity for the client to see that even if I am stuck in some area, I can still grow. That is the difference between coaching and counseling, where coaching, counseling, tries to process it and stay in the past. Coaching tries to, kind of bring us to, pick up the lessons of those experiences and see how we can process them in the present. Right?
Yeah.
So all of them have been embraced in the coaching space. So what you may see in a growth model, grow model, or anywhere, you're already kind of learning about it. The idea of this is to see what is the science, what has led to it. Is there a beginning to what where we what we started with and where we are today, so that even if you pick up each of these fields or frames of reference and go deeper, there'll be a little more there's more you'll get in terms of texture and tonality and understanding of how questions can be framed.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, Anupama.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Jude and Mridu, for these lovely insights on Socratic questioning. So my question is that, Mridu, I heard you saying that the question should not be such that it forces the coachee to come out of his comfort zone. Okay, and something that we have learned earlier is that a coach can always challenge the coachee at some points. So I just want to know how these two statements hold true at the same time.
Sure. So there I said not make them come out of their safe space, not comfort zone. Comfort zone has to be challenged in a certain way when the beliefs are in question. But the safe zone has to be maintained, and we can't ask them why do you have this belief, or what made you have this belief. So it will make them feel defensive. But we need to create that safe space and then still ask them and put the question in a different way, like what makes you like there were some examples there. What are we assuming here, or is there a different assumption here? So it's a very open-ended, very safe question. But when we start asking the question with a why, it puts them out of their safe zone. So safe zone, not comfort zone.
Okay.
Yeah, very,
okay.
very I really love that nuance, Mridu, that you brought here. Yeah. Of differentiating between safe zone and comfort zone. I think that's a brilliant nuance you picked up there.
Thank you.
That people are here to, to experience that discomfort and, for the coach to challenge them towards that discomfort, right? And yet, if we can keep them moving rather than, getting stuck because they feel unsafe with the coach, right? Anupama, so to ask them, what will change look like for you? What will be different about, whatever the situation is, when you have, kind of experience change, or when you are feeling better or happier or content or resilient or whatever it may be, right? How will you know that you have reached there? Right? So you kind of keep, what would happen if something like this happens? So you keep looking, get them to point out and give them evidences that will help them see, will also help them question their current belief. Because, a corollary to that can be, how would you like to, think about this situation differently when you see, when evidences are presented, right? How would you now want to see the situation as different? How would you want to reframe what you're thinking about the current situation? So you are really kind of helping them reframe, but from a space of compassion and engagement.
Right. Thank you, Lata, and thanks, Mridu.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other question?
I was remembering, I know it's a very serious topic, but I was remembering something on a very light note, if I have permission.
Yeah, go on before we get into the next topic. Yeah.
Right. Socrates even challenged his wife openly.
Yeah.
Like he used to, he used to bring out all his philosophical ideas by enjoying those, every moment with life. And specifically, most of when you read through his works or whatever he stated, his followers would say his experience with life, and wife.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, he was jailed towards the end of the life. He was, in a cell, and he refused to come out, and plead for his justice. So he was one of those, today what we may call as mavericks of this time, right? His willingness to question and rebel.
Yeah.
But in the process, he gave us some very brilliant tenets of, how we can not make it person-centric, but issue-centric, right? Depersonalize and yet ask questions that where you're able to objectively refute assumptions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What about this, do you see, and how many have they, if you can ask questions around frequency, around time, around quality, and yet without, giving the interrogative feel to the question. Are we okay on that?
Yeah.
Okay, and thank you, Jude, and thank you, Mridu.
You also covered one of the points, in a very nice way, Lata. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Absolutely, my pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah.
Great questions. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. So next, now can I invite? Okay, who's going to come? Can we invite, since we've been talking about CBT, can we invite cognitive behavioral coaching? Who's going to do cognitive behavioral coaching?
Ma'am, I've just got a call from Karthik, and he's offline now.
So he's the one who's supposed to do it. Okay, let's bring adult learning theory.
We're going to be doing it together, but he also has a major role in it, so we'll have to wait till he bounce back.
No, so Naama, which group are you representing?
Our group leader is Abdul.
Huh?
Our subject, Abdul. Our group leader is Abdul, and my subject is cognitive behavioral coaching.
So that's fine. So we said we'll wait for that. So we'll take the adult learning theory.
If Karthik joins us, I think we'll have to wait.
Yeah. Who's doing adult learning?
Lakshmi, myself, and Varun.
Lakshmi, Lakshmi
Narasimhan.
Yeah. Okay, please go on. Do you want the share screen?
Yeah, if you can, please.
Yeah, it's already there with you. Please take it up. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. And yep, as we all have been witnessing that, we are different. Like we are there to ask questions, and certainly that's where adult learning is definitely required. This is something what I feel. And getting straight onto the subject, there have been multiple researches done in this particular subject. Like there are many researchers, writers who all indulged, over a span of time. And specifically, why they all did is, we adults are definitely complicated, and we make things difficult, and plus it's not like for a school-going kid, like you give them a subject and say, okay, you are going to learn this, you are going to do this particular homework, you're going to come, etc. But the challenge, I will not call it as a problem, but the challenge with adults is they have an experience, they have maturity, and it, like, in order to teach somebody, or in order to tell teach someone, we need to be a little bit more we should have a particular approach to follow, or else we should have a methodical approach. I'm sorry, I was searching for that word, and so that we bring them in line. So though a lot of research has been done in this particular field, today basically we are trying to pick three different theories which are key theories. One is andragogy, and transformational learning, and experiential learning. So andragogy was brought up by Malcolm Knowles. Like basically it's a set of 4 principles and 5 different values which andragogy brought into picture. It's like, as we have been experiencing, like the moment we go and tell any adult, most of the cases, like if there is an ego in them, like, why I have to do this? What is that I'm going to get from this? Why you are going to tell it to me? So there'll be a lot of such questions, which would come into them. At the same point of time, if it is relevant to adults. Like for example, like now last week Karthik, when you said about a couple of ebooks, Karthik did immediately help us by sending out those ebooks. Now there is a relevance. If I have to read some other book, then I will definitely go and ask, why I have to read this? Now in front of me, my current relevance is basically coaching, and I would love to read, I would love to read, people, what is that book name? Games people play. So the adults, they try to generally find out that relevance in them, and at the same point of time, problem solving, like be their personal or workplace problem or specific problems, where their relevance, more focus will be paid by adults over there. And the third principle which Malcolm brought is involvement. In case if adults feel that it is more relevant to them, they become they involve themselves in a very high degree, and they become independent learners. Like even in few cases where they don't have any modes, they would go ahead and explore things and come back. Then at the same point of time, the most crucial part, one of the most crucial values or principles, what I would take from Malcolm's theory is experience. Adults come with a lot of experience. Not only that, the beauty with adults is remembering as well as relating some of the experiences in the past to the current relevance. This is something what makes adults completely different. And these four principles are definitely required for adults to, in an adult's learning theory. Then, like, we might ask, then how is this going to be relevant to, coaching? Then I would say, like, when you look at the very first thing, very first principle, which is application, applying it to practice, like making coaches think, why giving them direction to think, like, why I'm stuck, what I can do, to come out of this situation or to achieve more. That's where application can come into picture. In problem solving, action steps or various scenarios being discussed with the coachee is going to help. And at the same point of time, involving them. Like there is an application, there is a then it has come to problem solving, involving them, in various activities, or say in structured activities by means of setting goals will be another part. And finally, when it comes to experience, once the relevance part has been achieved, discussion, involving them in discussions, making them act on goals, etc., can be more applied from a coaching perspective. So these were, the four principles from Malcolm. Going forward, I would like Arun to speak a little bit on transformational learning. Arun, over to you.
Sure, Varun. Yeah, so over to Varun. Okay. Yeah. So good evening, everyone. And first of all, apologies. There is some issue with my video. But anyways, so see, what we are talking right now is about transformational learning. And I think that particular line summarizes everything, which is adults learn when new meaning is related to a previous experience. So see, here what we are saying as meaning can be different life experiences, different perspectives, right? So we learn from them. But the problem is the learning is not easy because of the last two words, which is previous experience. Because of previous experience, we have a particular way of dealing with things. There is a particular habit, and because of that, there is a character. There are tendencies also and everything. So it becomes very difficult for an adult to learn. So that first step itself is difficult. Now, what we are talking about is transformational learning. So this is, at least 10 steps away from learning. So it becomes very difficult, obviously. The way to approach is giving new experiences, new meaning, and new sort of data. So I feel, see, we are using this not only with the adults, but the same thing has been applied even in machines also. See, I'm coming from a data science and machine learning background, and that is where we use this, where we want a machine to distinguish between whether this photo is of a cat or a dog, and if the machine is not able to identify it properly, we give it more data so that the results become accurate. The same thing applies to humans also, right? So they are coming from one perspective. If we give them more perspectives, then maybe they'll be able to think rationally properly and we'll be able to learn from it. But will it be transformational is a question, and that is what we are going to discuss in this slide. That what do we mean by transformational learning? Okay, so and when I was doing my research on this topic, this is what I felt about it. See, I feel that there are two types of learning. One, first learning is where we as an individual we want to learn. That is self-imposed learning. Like for example, all of us we have joined MML, and obviously we want to learn something out of it. So this is where we all wanted to do something, right? The second kind of learning is where life teaches us. That is not in our hand, and from there we learn something. So these are the two different types of learnings, right? So talking about the first learning, which is where it is initiated by us, and now talking about these steps here. When a learning is initiated by us, then obviously there is no dilemma. There is no dilemma at all because we started it. We know why we are doing it, right? We are automatically on the second and the third step, which is, even we all can relate to MML. Whenever all our mentors, they talk about some of the examples, we always go and kind of link to our personal experiences, right? Which is the second step. And the third step is, okay, once we link it to it, we do a lot of critical thinking and see, okay, yeah, now this is making sense. And then after doing a lot of critical thinking, then we started thinking like that, we started acting like that, and we can say there is some kind of transformation, right? So in this case, I'll say that the first part is easy because it is driven by motivation, where the first step is not required. But I want everyone to think about the second kind of learning, which is not forced by us, which is where somewhere life is teaching us due to many things, right? There can be tragedy, and from there we are not able to comprehend the situation, and that is where the first step comes in, which is a dilemma. And dilemma means what? In simple question is why this has happened to me? What have I done? Right? All those questions. Then that is where it becomes very difficult for that particular person to move on to second and third step, because the first step itself is very difficult, right? So somehow we need to figure out what is that dilemma. Once we are able to figure out what is the dilemma, then the truth emerges out of it. And then when you relate that truth to your personal experiences, and then you think on over that, then that becomes a transformational learning. But here in the second kind of thing, the first step is very difficult, which is a dilemma. Now let me just stitch finally everything to how this is relevant to coach and coaching. We might be coaching people, right? And this is what I feel, and we need to understand what kind of, why have they come to us, and what is the trigger point? Is it something related to the first step where the learning or the coachee has come on its own, or is it because of some trauma or tragedy as the coachee come? Because if it's the second part, then as a coach, we need to spend a great deal of time on the first step itself, which is to identify the dilemma, make them comfortable that this has happened, make them be at peace with whatever has happened, and then make sure that from whatever has happened, they take a positive step out of it. They think over it, and there everything kind of connects. Even the last presentation given by Mridu and all the evoking questions and everything, why those things are required, just to make sure that the coachee makes sense to the dilemma. We take him or her out of it in a very positive way, so that they are able to think positively and move on with their life. And if we are able to do all these things as a coach, I think that will be transformational learning. Yeah, thank you. So next part I think will be taken by Lakshmi.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks.
And
thanks for that.
Yeah,
Excellent. So you have covered very well. You made our job very easy. Now I'm sorry there was a Wi-Fi drop. I'm working on the backup. I don't know when it will be switch over. Maybe a lag will be there. So we'll cover on the experiential learning. So all the theory parts, everything, coachee, everything is covered by Varun, and I don't know what else Raghu had covered. I joined in the middle. So I will tell a kind of a two case study. with respect to concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract communication, abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation. These are that young people will do. Like I joined a bank, manual banker. I was a manual banker from my 20th year. After my graduation, I was earning and learning. So in that year, I was working like anything, all those four things like concrete experience. I was taking from others' experience. I don't have that experience, but I was observing how seniors are working, and that's what the youth is having. And reflective observation, I will watch what other manual clerical person is doing, and accordingly I will reflect it. And abstract conceptualization. Say for example, when I will be writing a day book, journal, ledger, and all, I will take a kind of a journal or a ledger with some trial balance, all those kind of an abstract. I will visualize something and I will conceptualize a few things, and I will do some actively experiment and learn. So I will cover another case study, which is very interesting on the problem and solution, especially for the young people. Okay, so we are having a known problem. So we will have a problem and solution matrix. So known problem, known solution, the first metric. It's a commodity. So everyone can make it, like a toothpaste soap. So which is not the I mean that young people will not make it. Okay, so that is not the piece of cake for young people. The next one is known problem, unknown solution. Okay, so maybe driverless car. We don't know that we have the problem, but we don't know the solution. That is a futuristic requirement. So that also we will keep aside. And the other way, it is unknown solution. What is that? The third one. Known solution and unknown problem. So what is that known solution and unknown problem? Maybe a Google Glass. We have a solution, but we don't know what problem that is solving. That is also useless. But the very, very key is unknown problem and unknown solution. That is a potential disruptor. Say for example, 2 years before, we were having that oximeters, right? We were also using that. That is a potential disruptor now. So what I am saying, concluding, is that adult learning theory is all around with these four experiential learning towards that unknown zone. So this is what I want to summarize. We will open for questions.
Okay, thank you. There's quite a bit of things covered in the adult learning theories. Let's quickly check in with the class. What are the key elements you picked up? Any questions for the group? You have 3 stalwarts presenting adult learning theory here. So any questions?
No adults are there, so no questions. We are there.
Yeah.
So the way I want you to look at is, you started with a humanistic approach where you said, okay, unconditional positive regard, understand that, you know, individuals have the potential to grow. You looked at Socratic questioning as a way to kind of reframe and help reframe and refute beliefs with engagement. And now you're learning adult learning theories, right? So what are you picking up from this particular piece that can add to what you have already picked up in the previous 2? Anyone, just put in on chat some key, you know, there may be one thing that you're picking up. What is it that you picked up?
Probably if I have to just now compare, like,
Yeah.
of course, I never had time to go back, like what others are doing, that, like the activities which others are doing. But when I look at like the way that, like, refuting the situations and bringing those challenges, right? When we look at the application, involvement, you know, experience and problem solving capabilities, which is a part of the, you know, adult learning theory, they go definitely hand in hand. Then on top of it, like in a very secure way, you bring up the you know, key part, that you know, the humanitarian aspects. Because when we club these, I mean, I believe like we can make a massive difference.
And my take is that humanitarian and adult, there are two different. We can take out that adult, maybe especially millennial generation. It's very difficult to handle them, maybe on both the ways. Okay, so they are extra super one end, but other way also we need lot of coaching and mentoring and lot of support we may need to them. So humanistic approach for adult learning, how we can differently apply here? That's my question. So definitely humanistic approach, maybe a 360-degree. Each and every individual is different, right? So that's what corporate is also striving for when they are doing a digital transformation. Rather than focusing on product, they are coming to a customer-centric approach. If a customer is asking for a pizza, maybe double pizza burger in a restaurant, that person is telling, hey, I cannot able to give you the double pizza burger because your cholesterol level is higher. I have seen it from some other digital media, and your age is this. So there are so much of reference with respect to the digital media they are referring, and they are serving customer. So we have seen bottom-up approach, like customer like humanistic approach, and each and everyone it should change. But the market is also evolving. They are also coming to a 360-degree from a customer perspective. So it is not like a primary key. Earlier the primary key will be different. Now the primary key is customer. So my question is with respect to adult and humanistic approach, how this humanistic approach will adapt to adult learning?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Raghu, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, like I wanted to slightly refute what my lead said. At the end of the day, most of the cases when, coming down, like definitely coming down to the coaching domain, most of the cases, like whom is that we are going to face? We are going to face, certainly adults, and again, like they are a human beings. We are not going to coach non-human beings to come to that point. So when you're coaching an adult, until and unless the one very key part to take from Lata's when she tried summarizing, accept them. Like even when she brought up the point, accept them. So until unless that is done, and secondly, say any adult, like, because it might be like going back to our previous sessions, like when Lata was again, like she was taking on the parenting styles, the egos that that every individual of we come with. How is that you are going to challenge that particular person? Because there is a preoccupation, there is a predetermined an experience which is running in the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to pick up from what Raghu said, Lakshmi, and I think that's a very relevant, pertinent question that you've raised, right? That what is it that, how does one serve or feed into the other, and how do they kind of, work together? One of the elements that Raghu is really talking about is that each one has their own individual experience, right? And tap into that experience. And what all of you spoke about really is that adults, by the time they are adults, they have a whole, pitara of experiences, right? And that's we called, if you remember the neuroscience space, we spoke about the memory, the implicit, explicit memories that have been stored in. And therefore the reference points, and there is an individual unique experience that is going on, which is also based on their own, their memories, their perceptions, their model of the world, that has, in a sense, got, more and more embedded, right? That's why we say as children, they're more raw, they're more available, they're more moldable. But as adults, there's so much that has already gone in. And that's where, I like, Lakshmi, what you spoke about, where in the digital world, where you're making it very interactive with the customer, and you're creating a very unique experience for the customer. And when you're creating a unique experience, that experience is not just about, okay, you're giving me some information that is specific to me. You are creating a complete sensory experience for me that is, that I am kind of completely in, I feel like I'm really there with that service provider. I feel like there's someone really looking at me, understanding me, picking up what I need and creating something for me. And when you do that, you're creating a whole experience for the client, right? Which means that you are going beyond what the customer may state as this need, and you're tapping into what is that inner world, what is that inner landscape of the client, what may appeal to this person based on all the algorithms that must have gone in behind, right? In terms of building up some kind of a demographic profile. But when you do that intelligently, you are actually presenting something that feels like you created it uniquely for me. And that is in that selling space. In the coaching space, are you able to, the whole idea of adult learning is one, that because they are fully developed, the assumption is that, the brain is developed, there's a prefrontal cortex, which is making choices, which is making decisions, which is grown to a space where they want to feel independent. Are you creating an experience where they feel that they have the choice? You are not imposing anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not imposing, you're respecting that experience. You're respecting the context. When Ian spoke about individual contexts and cultures, are you respecting that, right?
Yeah.
Are you respecting that individual need? That is one. Two is, are you kind of creating an experience for the client, which is based on an understanding of my internal process, my internal goals. And that's where, when as coaches, we go beyond the topic and really get to understanding what's really going on inside. What is driving the client to sit in front of me and ask for that? What has made him spend that money to sit and invest in his time and effort and emotional energies into this goal, and the client doesn't come always aware of it.
Yeah.
And if we can create that as a complete experience, which is the head, heart, and the gut, and the entire self, the conscious and the unconscious being, part of that experience, then you're creating something that can shift, that has a potential to shift the internal landscape, right? And we spoke about, are you creating a shift that is going to create some new trigger, a new neural connection for me?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm, as an adult, not going to take it or not going to start something just because you tell me it's good for me. I'm not going to stop smoking, start eating less, start exercising more, start reading more, just because I know that it's good out there. I'm not going to do it till you're able to engage my entire self, right?
Exactly.
And with adults, because there's so many memory and associations that are there, if we are able to kind of work with that space, you are creating a complete experience for the client.
Yeah, exactly. One more example, when you were talking, I was just wondering in my mind, like it was really happened when I was working in a previous organization. Maybe it is a comparison of adult and humanistic. So that adult, there was a mobile app we need to develop for project management, for agile project management. We have to develop a mobile app. We have developed in Android. That the fresher person, he's an adult, 22 years from college, he's developed in Android very well. But the customer, all the customer from US, so they were all from iOS. So we need to change it into iOS. We have asked for multiple vendors, multiple people, experienced people. They were saying it is 3 months, 6 months, so much of cost. Then we asked this person, hey, why can't you learn and why can't you do it? He has taken it as a challenge, and whatever in that slide on experimentation and whatever Arun had told, all those things he has applied. Within 3 weeks, he has made that app live. That's the difference between adult and humanistic. If he's an experienced person, he will go by his past, all those future, he will take his own time. But this guy has taken it as a challenge and it has gone on live. That is one more case study.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the ability to process and connect interconnected, seemingly diverse issues, to be able to connect them, to synthesize, right? We call analytical and also synthesis.
Yes,
so you're able to synthesize and create, you're able to create a solution because you're seeing the problem at an abstract level and not just at the level of a certain detail.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you're able to see the problem at a big picture level. You're able to and therefore conceive and conceptualize what can be the solution. And if adults have that capacity, Lakshmi, thank you for bringing up that example, that this gives you what you brought up as the experiential learning cycle is the process of adult learning. The cycle of adult learning is representative of that you create you provide observations, you help the person process it, pick up patterns, right? You understand the fundamental the principle behind those patterns, right? You say, okay, it seems like this seems to trigger something. It looks like there is a pattern that every time an authority figure comes into your life, you seem to have a certain challenge in questioning. You have managed to generalize. And you say, okay, if you were to resolve this, where else will you be able to apply this besides talking to the boss? And he says, yeah, it's going to solve so many things of my life. You know, I may be able to tell my father-in-law what I think. I may be able to resolve this. I may be, I started somewhere with my father, so on and so forth. You start picking up the Now, what's happening in your brain is all those associations are stacking up and saying, yes, all of these are coming from one possible memory or association. I'm stacking it up. And when I start applying, okay, what about in this? You go out and speak to your boss, and do you want to try doing it this way? And you work out, and he comes up with what may work for him. He does a role play, he works with it in a safe environment, goes back, applies it. When he starts applying it, he starts seeing how else can I apply it? And it creates a complete experience for him. Right? And when it becomes an experience for him or her, again, you're available as a coach to share and process and learn, and it is getting internalized. It's not something imposed based on a coach agenda. Right? Unlike a child who may pick up and say, okay, teacher has said this, so I have to do this, right? You still have that, an avenue there. You may do it differently, right? You can still do it there. You may use symbolism, art to, kind of engage the child. You still have to engage a child. But in an adult, the faculties of language and communication and memories, all of it are so much more that if you can work through that and, and create an experience, that's what the complicated, when Raghu started by saying it's complicated, but that's the magic of adult learning.
Yeah,
okay?
One thing where I would like to thank you, Lata, is basically I became an adult and saw the time. Then to be conscious on time, I really curtailed a couple of points which you brought up while picking up Lakshmi's points. When you say, okay, the experience, the frontal lobe, the thinking pattern, and what makes an adult complex. That is something which I made a note, and when I cut them off, censored them, being conscious of time, I also went a little bit here and there,
No worries. I think all of you did a great job. Thank you so much. And I just want to get a sense of the energy in the group right now. Are we okay? Are we doing fine?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now I want to hear from the others who are not talking. RK Singh, Shiv, Jude, I think has spoken. Ian, Asit, are we doing okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Are you finding this? Did you find the adult learning theory resonating in terms of usefulness?
Yes, it resonates quite well with me.
Wonderful. So what I'm going to suggest is, I think, take a quick 5-minute break. Yeah. So that, is that a habit or it's not a habit to take a break?
No, there's a habit to take a break.
So I think
the habit is to take 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, but I don't know whether we have that, right? We have 4 modes, but can we do, are we okay if we take around 10 minutes? Okay, not 5, not 15, but 10.
Yeah, we can connect by 15.
And then what we will do is, let's try and finish within 15 minutes. There are 4 more to go. Let's do 15 minutes each. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Lata.
Yeah, sorry, Venkat, what are you saying?
After the break, like, we will take, my team will take the next topic. Actually.
Sure. Which one is that?
Half states, half states, multicultural management, cross-functional.
No, we'll do CBC before. If Karthik is not yet here, is it, Nama?
Okay. Maybe logically you're thinking that's fine. Then.
Yeah, if Karthik is not able to make it, Nama, I suggest you take it up.
But I'm afraid I won't be able to do without him because half the thing he's handling it. So,
you don't have the slides, you don't have the stuff, is it? Okay, so if
no slides, ma'am, but I just got a call from him and he said within half an hour he should bounce back. So the others can finish.
Okay, so let's just, okay, no worries. We'll see if it doesn't happen, then I'll just give you some slide and you can talk about it. Yeah. Okay, so see you back at 7:15.
Okay.
See you then. Bye-bye.
I'm back.
I'm also.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for coming back. So this is your order we'll follow. We will do Venkat. We'll do the cross-cultural model. And if we are able to get the CBC team back, together by then, we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll follow it up with the goal-focused and evidence-based model. And then we'll do CBC. If we do, we'll get goal and evidence done, and then we'll do CBC. Yeah. And another thing I was thinking is, what we could do is when there is one team presenting, can I request that the other team members, start putting down on chat any key learning that you're picking up, right? Any key learning that you're picking up from that particular model, just put it up on chat. Okay, I can see Karthik is back. Okay. So we will do Karthik's team after the cross-cultural model. Yeah. And if you can just put in there your learnings from the from what you have done, of what you've heard, and we'll quickly consolidate our learnings from the particular model and then move on to the next one. Yeah. So we'll try and get them. Okay. So who's presenting the next one? If you need the screen, it's there for you.
Ma'am, can we go ahead, right?
Yes, Venkat, please go ahead.
I believe Ian and Shainas were there, right? Back. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for helping me, Shainas.
So Venkat, just ensure that someone in the team is also keeping tab, that your group takes around 8 to 9 minutes, not more. Yeah.
Right, ma'am. Right, ma'am. Yeah, Shainas, can you switch over to the first slide? Goes to the next. Yeah, next one, please. Next one, please. Yeah. This is the Hofstede model, and kind of stuff. We were 3 buddy coaching partners, and we were taking 3 2 minutes each actually. And I will give the introduction and why it got evolved and how the requirement came for Hofstede's model to evaluate, and why we are going to practice in coaching model. Then I will pass on it to Jan. Jan will talk about 3 out of 6 dimensions, 3 dimensions he will speak about, and he will pass it to Shainas for the rest of the 3. That's it. We were planned, and without we can quick start actually. What is the Hofstede model? I don't know whether I'm pronouncing correctly or not. Hofstede, right? So he was a Netherlands professor, and he was a philosophist actually, and he was doing so many things. And IBM was a global company in 1960s itself. Now we are talking about because of IT, we are global. We are global. He was identified at that time itself, and there will be a global, and we need to know each person's experience, emotions, kind of stuff, the national cultures kind of stuff. He was thought through that, and IBM he was done some consulting work for the IBM. At that time, IBM was spread across around 50 countries, and the cultural nations, everything is completely different actually. How they are going to engage each other, how the management is struggle to manage the 50 countries, 50 nations people kind of stuff. That is where the quick start come up for this model to evolving. And he was worked 1 decade with respect to the IBM employees, around 100K at that moment itself in 1969, and he studied almost 1 decade time with respect to their employees, and he was finalizing this model, and he was presented to IBM and the throughout the globe. Now we are practicing the same model how to manage like cross-functional people actually. And I believe as an Indian, we are cross-functional with respect to different states. If you work with different states people in MNC or like even the Indian organization, you can manage the people, you can mingle, and we can respect their values and local values and their beliefs kind of stuff. That is where it starts actually. Shahnaz, can you switch out to next slide, please? Shahnaz, are you? Yeah. So the 6 dimensions was initially he was pointed out only 4 things. However, he was come across like later part like he was added 2 more dimensions actually. Prior to that, he was initially given only 4 dimensions. After that, he went to Hong Kong, and he studied one more aspect, and he was added as a new dimension out of 4. Then in 2010, he was added the 6th dimension. The dimensions are power distance index. It is called as like PDI. The second one is individualism and collectivism. Third one is like uncertainty avoidance index actually, and the 4th one is like here also we are going to pretty much observe it. Masculinity in terms of like masculinity and femininity in terms of like job roles and how they are going to achieve their goals kind of stuff. And the 5th one is long-term orientation versus short-term orientation, and the 6th one is intelligence versus like restraint. These are all the 6 dimensions he was talked about, how it is going to help them as a manager to maintain like cross-functional people and their goals and their emotions kind of stuff. So with that, I'm just pausing. Any questions over now? If not, probably I will pass it over to Ian to speak about like the first thing.
See, this is heavy stuff actually, so we need to understand a little bit about it. I don't know, time will permit. Yeah, indeed, Asit, I respect for time, and if anything, probably offline also we can connect, and offline I'm happy to take it forward. If you have any straight questions, probably you can help me out, then I will try to answer.
Okay, so if we can go to the slide I see in front of me, I'll try and keep this as simple and as basic, because I think it is a simple concept in many, many respects. The first element relates to embracing hierarchy or embracing a more egalitarian approach of power and leadership. The power distance index, this first element, considers the extent to which inequality and power are tolerated. In this dimension, inequality and power are viewed from the perspective or the viewpoint of the followers, called the lower level. High power distance indicates that a culture accepts inequity and power differences and encourages bureaucracy, showing a high respect for rank and authority. Larger institutions, and I would think perhaps where I am in the UK of the National Health Service, for example, often require, because of their size and scale, coherence and structure. This may depersonalize, it may limit a humanistic interaction and relationship for employees, and thereby impact motivation and restrict innovation. A lower power distance, in contrast, indicates that a culture encourages organizational structures that are flat, decentralized design and decision-making structures, and therefore embrace power distribution. Accountability might be a problem. Spreading responsibility might well impact upon measurement, yet it embraces a humanistic approach for engagement to empowerment, motivating for experiences. So not imposed, but encouraging creative, agile, and innovative thinking. The second focus is around, and perhaps the more obvious one, individualism and collectivism. Individualism indicates that there's a greater importance placed on attaining personal goals, a person's self-image, perhaps characterized by the simple letter I. Collectivism indicates the greater importance placed on the goods, so the goals rather, and the well-being as group identity. A person's self-image is defined as we, perhaps noting the power of peer, of collaboration. A quote I use in a school context is, if you want to go fast, go alone. To go far, go together, implying inclusivity and scaling human potential. The final one, uncertainty avoidance index, considers the extent to which uncertainty and ambiguity are tolerated. A high uncertainty avoidance index indicates low tolerance for uncertainty or ambiguity and perhaps risk-taking. The unknown is minimized through Taylor-like rules and regulations. A low uncertainty avoidance index indicates high tolerance for uncertainty, ambiguity, and risk-taking. The unknown more accepted and embraced, and there are laxer rules and regulations. In a teaching context where I tend to reside, the complexity is a real challenge for new learning, for new material. The pandemic has changed the workplace and changed our working relationships. So in terms of uncertainty, certainly has had an amazing impact upon the grounding of knowledge when we're thinking about enabling change and empowering people for coaching. Okay.
Yes, can you hear me?
Over to you, sorry. Yeah,
okay.
Over to you.
Yeah. I'm afraid that our time is already up, so I'll try to be brief as possible. However, if there is another chance, I would like to take this further from a personal experience, because I'm happy to start with masculine versus feminine, as gender is my background. And I just had a session with my students who are studying coaching on gender and gender difference and possible conflicts in coaching. So if there is an opportunity, maybe I can, talk later about that. But here in this model, it's there's, the definition, like with societies that are more masculine societies, the preference is more of achievement. So we touched upon that last week, so I'm not going to go more into the definition, but it's more of achievement, competition. There are different roles, and the women are more like empathetic and caring. In feminine societies, it's more equal, and the gender roles kind of like overlap. Next point is long-term orientation versus short-term orientation. This this dimension is associated with the connection of the past with current and future actions and challenges. Whether the future is important, our children, our next generations. The lower degree, which is the short-term societies, the traditions are really honored and kept. There's a firmness there, to keep the tradition valued. The long-term societies, they're more adaptive, they're more flexible, they have more pragmatic problem solving. And it's also associated that those with short-term societies are really do little with economic development and vice versa. The last one is indulgence versus restraint. So it's really this dimension is a measure of happiness and joy. So indulgent societies, they allow free gratification of basic and natural human desires to enjoy life and have more fun. Yeah, they believe that they are in control of their own lives and their own emotions. However, the restrained societies are more kind of restricted on that. So yeah, it's more they control gratification, and yes, and yeah, they think that there are other factors there that dictate their lives and emotions, not much of their own control. So that's in a nutshell. Sorry, I'm kind of nervous because of the time, but I really wanted to just take that. I mean, this is a model and there are pros and cons. Of course, we need to know the culture difference. Now that we're global, we're open, we can coach different cultures. And there are some critiques also on that model that culture is really complex. It's not just these dimensions, but they're more into that. So yes, there's a lot of depth in that. So I would like that you would take this further into thinking, you know, like, is there any other points that you think that could be added to these 6 dimensions? Like, for example, I think religion also is an important. What other issues, you know, or dimensions and cultures that can be added to this from your own point of view? Is this enough? Also asking yourself or asking ourselves as coaches, how do we prepare to that? How do we prepare, or how do we apply this model? How do we prepare if we're coaching different clients, you know, from wholly different cultures? And I'm not sure, do I have a minute to give some examples of some culture issues that came, you know, in my experience, or no?
Shahnaz, go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. So regarding gender, we had, it's very interesting because the last session I did with my students was on gender, and not just the gender difference, but also as a coach, I see a lot of coaches who like to coach only women or coach only men. Or one of my students had the problem with, you know, she's Canadian, and her client was kind of hitting on her. And we were talking about it because there's this notion that Canadians are very polite, and she could not, it was hard for her to set the boundaries, where we had another students from Poland, and she was like, we are like that, we were very, you know, firm. So it was very interesting to see the difference, culture dynamics between different countries, and also gender issues. One main aspect also I encountered that, and here I'm from Egypt, so from the Middle East, we kind of have this sensitivity about feminism, that the Western are coming to change us and liberate us, and we don't need that. So there was a coach who also was kind of really in conflict and confused, coaching a woman from, you know, Middle Eastern, and she was about like, this is, her husband is kind of controlling her. And I was talking with her, and she was like, of course we need to self-manage as coaches, but again, our experience would always come in the way. And I kind of talked to her about, like, you have to be really aware about the culture differences, and what do you think is kind of control might not be like that or perceived like that for this woman in her culture. So that was a big, really conversation, and it was very interesting to see different dimensions, you know, whether it's gender, whether it's even expressions. I had an issue between a Canadian and an American over an expression, and there was a big conflict. And then when I told them, you know, just talk about it, and it was totally because of culture difference, it's perceived different. So going back to how can we prepare, really, how can we research or even have it in our contracting with our clients, like, you know, like it's amazing to coach from different cultures, but even talking about it honestly and openly, that we don't have much background in this culture, and if anything happens, that maybe we can be open about it, you know, after doing the research, of course. And yeah, so I'll stop here because I don't want to take much time, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful presentation by each one of you. Thank you, Yan. Thank you, Venkat. Thank you, Shahnaz. So any questions for this team? And I just, also, you know, Shahnaz brought up an important point that, you know, the model by itself can be, you know, one of the questions is, you know, is it limited in terms of not looking at individual differences, right? So you may ask that in the humanistic psychology, we talk about respecting individual differences, and then then are we putting people into boxes? So any thoughts, any questions? What is the purpose of studying this model? What have the others picked up? And I'm sure Ian and Shainaz and Venkat, all of you can respond to them. Quickly, we'll take 2 questions.
So
Comments?
Ian was mentioning something about fear and about something. So I could not recollect that. What is that? Like accepting fear or something like that? Uncertainty.
Ian, you want to take that?
Yeah, you have mentioned something about uncertainty.
That is one of the dimensions, Lakshmi, of
okay.
of the model. Yeah, you may want to answer that, one of you. Yeah. You're on. You need to unmute yourself, Ian.
Okay, hi there. Well, there's a classic example. There's a classic example, the uncertainty of Zoom communication, when you don't know whether you can be heard, when there's, it's not face-to-face, when there is insecurity around whether, you are audible and you are getting your point across and you can't transfer body language. I think that whether we are coaching online, digitally, one-to-one, there is always this sense of ambiguity that surrounds context, and understanding the whole person, well, I would suggest is impossible. I mean, to appreciate all the dimensions of an individual's context or position with regard to coaching need. I think you can only be objective and approach with sensitivity, and be empowering to actually bring out and draw out the levels of concern, whether it be for growth or development. And I think complexity, ambiguity in our society, whether that be inequality, whether that be sustainable issues, whether that be related to job security, and changing in technical and digital contexts, I think is one of those realities that coaching needs to navigate through and with, so that we're not, we are coaching with the client rather than necessarily for. It's very much a process that goes through and understands and develops their existence in a very, very complex and ambiguous world. And becoming increasingly complex and increasingly ambiguous for our work.
Yeah, and even within that complexity, the suggestion is that there are societies which may call on more clear rules and ways of functioning, and and some other societies and some other groups, communities may encourage a more freer kind of mode of experiencing or taking risks, right? And that is, and therefore where, different societies may have different thresholds of managing uncertainty. Maybe it may be related to a society which experiences, natural calamities, and they may, any kind of strikes, etc. Maybe that could be, or maybe it's a more convention. It promotes following certain conventions and rules. It could be any of those, Lakshmi. So that's the polarity that is being examined there, and therefore being able to look at that. Yeah, Mridu.
Yeah, so coming to the application of this model, I understood that one application can be when people of one company of a country are expanding and they are collaborating with people of different companies in different countries. And then these models, they can question that whatever are these indexes and how receptive the people of that country are and what needs to be addressed. And so the coach can really look at these points and then kind of introduce coaching for change management. When it comes to other areas of coaching, life coaching, relationship coaching, how do we even apply these models? Is it applicable there also?
Yeah, Shainaz, you want to take that question?
Yes, I mean, it's it all comes back to really understanding the culture background of your client with any topic, with anything. You know, as I was just talking about the relationship between a wife and her husband and how it's perceived, but with for the coach, it was, you know, example of like that's controlling, and for the client was not. So definitely with life issues, with relationships, with different any other topics, just for you as a coach to really understand the background and the culture and where this client is coming from. And I want to also take it back to Lata about the individualism, you know, like also when I study gender, like they tend to put women in one category. And I studied that there are so many types of feminism, from radical to difference to, you know, so there is no such, I know that these theories help us in general, but again, you also need to look at the culture, the general culture, because of the social norms and all of that, but also as the individual and their own point of view of that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Completely
Can I take a
second
moment?
that. Yeah.
Lata?
Yes, Venkat, please.
These are all my true experiences. Indeed, like, you know, I have been traveled to, you know, Asia Pacific and, you know, Western, especially Europe and, you know, US part. You know, after my education, like, you know, after my, you know, master's, I traveled to, you know, Singapore. Even though it is a, like, you know, Asian Pacific part, you know, they were asking some questions. I was heading like this way. You know, this is my culture and, you know, kind of stuff. They were not able to, whether, Venkat, are you saying yes or no? Please talk, rather than, like, you know, giving your expressions kind of stuff. And the other day, we went to restaurant. You know, the Singaporeans, like, they were taking some other things kind of stuff, which we are not seen at all, actually. The snakes kind of stuff, like, you know, while doing a party. You know, my colleague, he was vomiting sensation, he was expressing different things. Then immediately I pulled him out and, you know, hey, can we go and, you know, come back? I want to talk to you. So that is the way, like, you know, we need to respect them. Indeed, like, you know, expressing in front of their faces, actually, right? And, you know, pretty much when I have been observed, like, you know, Western part UK, irrespectively, you know or not known, if any gentleman or like women going over, hey, good morning. Here, our culture is like, if you known to you, then only we will say, hey, good morning, Lata, or good morning, like, no, Seema, good morning, Raghava, right? If you don't know them, you will be like, treating completely different person altogether.
Yeah, they may wonder why you're smiling at them.
Exactly. These kind of things I have been experienced, I have been learned a lot, actually. So
absolutely,
definitely these things should be, you know, you have to work out as a coach, like, no, to whom, which part of the globe you are engaging your client, you know, kind of stuff. You learn and you try to, you know, express yourself so that it is a smooth sail with your, you know, clients.
Yeah. So it certainly is a good starting point to understand cultures, to understand cultural norms and practices, and then do everything that we as coaches learn to do, right? Which is to spend time and get to know the individual in his or her own skin, with their own, you know, unique soul and, you know, identity and all that they bring in, right? Does that make sense? So, so fantastic. Thank you so much. All of you, all three of you did a fantastic job bringing very unique examples from your own, you know, from your own life and background. And thank you so much. Shahinaz, I appreciate what you said, that you'd love to share a lot more. Maybe, you know, as a group, you know, all of you can set aside time and spend some more. The idea is for us right now was to just dip our feet and understand that there are so many theories available for specific, you know, for us to, you know, kind of get some kind of frame of reference, right? As when we are doing multicultural work, then, you know, there is a frame of reference here because it's based on research. And, you know, though, like this particular model, yes, there is, you know, so there, it has been questioned that it was done, the size, the sample size, it was IBM only. You know, there can be a larger sample size, etc. But it's a starting point. Anyone else? There's work that has been done after that also. You can go and check it out. But the idea is for us as coaches to know that there is a science also there. There is research happening there, right? Even in this space. And if you are planning to be multicultural coaches, and cross-cultural facilitation coaches, then there is a ton of material and educative stuff available out there and programs available out there. Okay, great. Thank you so much, each one of you. We're going to move on to the next one, and I'm going to invite Nama and team.
We have Abdul as our group leader, but because he's traveling, he's unfortunately not been able to participate. So our subject for today is cognitive behavioral coaching. I'm here to throw some light on 3 questions. Number 1, what is the definition of CBC? That is cognitive behavioral coaching. Number 2, the second question is, what is the goal or aim of CBC? And the last question, what are the methods of its application from our coaching perspective? So the question is, what is the definition of CBC? Cognitive refers to mental process, what we are thinking and what we believe in. Behavior refers to what we do, how we act in relationships and other situations. While coaching refers to helping a person enhance their life quality and effectiveness. The cognitive behavioral coaching is an approach to coaching model that draws on CBT, that is cognitive behavioral therapy. It starts with the insight that events can trigger negative thoughts. These lead to negative emotions, and negative emotions lead to unhelpful behaviors. The real danger comes as those behaviors feed back into outcomes that trigger new thoughts, and the cycle continues. Coming to our next question, what is the aim of CBC? Its aim is to help the client to initiate and enact change in thinking patterns and behaviors, thereby improving the quality of their life and enabling them to reach their goals. Not by changing the circumstances they are living in, but by helping the person to take control of his or her own perception towards their circumstances. Now let us consider what are the methods of application from a coaching perspective. Some of the techniques that are most often used with CBC include the following 9 strategies. The first one being cognitive or mental restructuring or reframing. Second one, guided discovery. Third one, paraphrasing. Fourth, journaling of thoughts, meaning recording your thoughts. Fifth one, activity scheduling and behavior activation. Number 6, body language. Number 7, relaxation and stress reduction techniques. Number 8, role playing. And number 9, successive approximation. So now we move on to Karthik, who will give us some more information. Thank you. Karthik, over to you, please.
Thank you, Nama. As you rightly said, there are many tools and techniques, models, programs, modes used in cognitive behavior therapy, many of which can be used both as a therapy context and in everyday life as a coach. So I will just touch upon a few of them. As Nama rightly mentioned, the cognitive restructuring is at the heart of the cognitive behavior therapy, the CBT, and it can be effective at treating many mental health conditions, including depression and anxiety. Once we identify the distortions the coachee holds, we can begin to explore how those distortions took root in the first place and why the coachee came to believe them. For example, if the coachee believed that he must have a high-paying job to be a respectable person in the society, but he got laid off from his high-paying job. He will begin feeling bad about himself. Instead of accepting this faulty belief that led him to think negative thoughts about himself, we could make him rethink about or rewire himself about what really makes a person respectable, a belief that he may not have explicitly considered before at all, right? Journaling, which Nama mentioned, can include the time of the mood or a thought that happened at that particular time, the source of it, the extent or intensity, and how the client reacted, among other factors. It can help understand the thought patterns and emotional tendencies and describe them and change and adapt or even cope with them for that matter. Then we have other techniques like interceptive exposure, which is used to treat panic and anxiety, the interceptive exposure. It is intended to help the sufferer or the client see that symptoms of panic are not really dangerous, but although it might be uncomfortable for them, it is not really dangerous. We make them aware of the fact. Then playing a script is another technique that is used. And until the end, we make them or we take them towards the end to see what the individual can do. That is, we make them feel more vulnerable to the crippling fear that they have or the anxiety that is a sort of an experiment on them in which they imagine the worst outcome or the worst case scenario. Letting this scenario play in them can help the individual recognize that even if everything that they have been fearing happens in reality, the outcome can still be managed. It is not that bad. So that is another way. Or other forms which Nama was mentioning is a relaxed breathing. So practitioners of mindfulness use this technique explicitly. The importance of breath has to be understood. Breath is an area which can be, which is very vast. We can talk about it in length and breadth, but I'm not getting into that. And there are many, many ways to relax our breath and bringing regularity and calming our breath. The client will be able to allow us, meaning us as a coach, to approach the problem from a place of balance, facilitating rational decisions. Then progressive muscle relaxation is also a familiar technique for people who practice the mindfulness as a technique. Similar to the body scan, this technique instructs the coachee to relax mentally each body part one by one until the whole body is in a state of relaxation. There are lots of worksheets and handouts which can assist the coach in this kind of a practice. The techniques are endless and new ones are constantly being evolved and emerged. The few mentioned techniques which I discussed about now are most widely accepted and can be practiced by any cognitive coach or by anyone who is interested in becoming a more effective or a empathetic communicator for that matter. So I'm sure this would have given you an idea or a clarity about the importance of cognitive behavior and coaching. I'll now pass the control to Nama to wrap up and conclude the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Karthik. In conclusion, CBC, that's cognitive behavioral coaching, is a useful and applicable tool to the coaching practice. In fact, CBC is the mother of all tools and techniques. It is an emblem of emotional intelligence, positive psychology, NLP, spiritual intelligence coaching, neuroscience coaching, all put together. People are not disturbed by things and situations, but by the view they take of them. CBC makes people aware that while we cannot control every aspect of the world around us, but the good news is that we can jolly well take control of how we interpret and deal with things in our environment. So, as the saying goes, change your thoughts, change your life, could be our mantra. Thank you, folks.
Fantastic. Thank you
Nice,
so
nice.
much.
Yep,
Thank
very
you
nice.
so much. Really nice,
Excellent, excellent
compact.
session. Both of you, excellent.
Yeah, very compact. And again, coming from a lot of conviction. I have also added a couple of documents on the chat. If all of you can just download it. These are just, Karthik referred to the fact that there are worksheets that can be available, right? These are just a couple of worksheets. I thought I'll put in there as samples, okay? For us to be able to the sequence that Naama pointed out, right? About thoughts leading, events leading to thoughts, thoughts leading to beliefs, beliefs are about consequences. Consequences can be, those beliefs about those consequences can be disputed. And then we can formulate new thoughts, right? And new beliefs. And it is typically called an ABCDE model. Okay. So the idea is that, and I think Shiv, you will find some answers here. If you look at one of that, even Karthik referred to the decatastrophizing stuff, and I have given you a document that is specifically related to that. Okay.
And because we were committed to 8 minutes, speech, so we did not include the ABCDE model because that we would have had to elaborate. So we were very, very committed to our 8 minutes, and we didn't take more than
no worries. You left something for me to say, Naama. Don't worry. Okay. But but I could see that all of you have kind of completely, both of you have really, kind of got a sense of what this is, what the power of the model is. And also, I'm very glad that you brought up practices related to the model, right? And how you can actually use it out there in the coaching space. And I'm so happy that you even went ahead and thought, spoke about things like mindfulness and breathing, etc. And and the fact that Naama pointed out that this can be, it really, in a sense, consolidates a lot of science, a lot of stuff that we know. That fundamentally, if the correlation between thoughts and beliefs and the perceptions and how we relate to the external world is what is creating all this drama, then the cognitive behavioral theory, kind of helps you use questions. And now imagine you were able to use Socratic questioning here in this space, right, where you're going into evidences of what is really, and questioning facts from opinions, right? And the first one, if you see facts and opinions, and you start questioning, where you are able to reframe the beliefs. So I think you guys have done a fantastic job. Unless there is any questions which you want either of them to answer, we can move ahead. But I just want to get a sense, how's the group feeling about this? Anything that you want to comment, ask?
Ma'am, I had a question here.
Yeah, please go ahead and ask them. Yeah.
Yeah. So we will be the coaches and we will be applying this as a coach, and there would be therapists who will be applying this as a therapy. At what point of time will we understand that this is something I can absolutely help the coachee overcome? And at what point should we understand that this is a therapist's job, and now this is when CBT part of it is not, it's out of my context?
Yeah. Karthik?
Typically, what happens is whatever we have been talking about as a therapy per se, Mridu, all this can be done by the coach to the coachee also. There is no problem at all, because all these are pertaining to the mind. It is not something that is really existing, right? So once you make the coachee, when he is in anxiety or in a distressed state, you make them understand that it is not really you need to be worried about, and you have to make them understand that it need not be a therapy per se. Therapy has a negative connotation to it normally, right? So as a coach, we can definitely take it, and there is no demarcation saying this is what a coachee has to do, and this area of it, especially in the cognitive behavior, this part goes to the therapist by per se. So we can definitely handle both. It is not, there is no real demarcation between the two, is what I see.
Sure. Naama?
Well, if it's a very, very intensive mental problem, Mridu, then of course the therapist comes in the picture. And we take a back seat, because for us to recommend any treatment is something that which does not come in the parameter of coaching. So whenever it is something very intensive and the root problem is mental, is the mental process, then the therapist comes into between. Otherwise, we can take it forward. Because with the process of the mentality, then it's the behavioral that you have to touch upon, and that a coach can expertly handle.
Yeah. So just to add to that, Mridu, you are using the technique of CBT in order to help them reframe the particular thought process, the particular belief. Yeah. In coaching, you're adding the more solution focused, growth focused approaches. So you kind of add that and it becomes CBC, right? You start also, so you are also becoming more long-term, all of that, the purpose, the goals, etc., which are more long-term, which kind of come in, because then there is a particular goal towards the future that they want to work with. In therapy, it may be that they're dealing with something and you're helping them reframe that particular belief about an issue, because it's really about getting over a certain limiting belief, which may be in some way restricting them. In a coaching space, there is also a future-oriented goal that you also help them, then move towards. So there is a certain goal-based focus. That's the difference. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. So basically, it's the difference between evoking awareness and healing. My objective is to evoke awareness, and so this is a part of it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah. You're evoking awareness even in the counseling space. You're absolutely right. You would use the healing stuff, but you go beyond evoking awareness towards creating growth opportunities.
Got it.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to request the solution focus team to come in. Thank you. I really want to appreciate this team for keeping it nice and compact and yet doing an effective job. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. Next team. Who's coming on? That would be, do I need to call them out? That would be Rajesh and team for goal focused. Hi, Rajesh. Okay, so Rajesh, do you have your team here?
Yeah.
Okay, so please go ahead, and if you need to share, you can share slides, yeah?
Yeah, we have in our team Asit and Himanshu.
Okay, Asit and?
Himanshu.
Himanshu, okay, I don't see him here, is he? Okay, I don't know whether he's here. Oh yeah, he's here. Okay.
I'm there.
Right,
Yeah.
Himanshu. Also, maybe Himanshu can also come on video. Asit can also come on video.
Yeah, I'm already.
Okay.
I'm already there.
And we would the sequence would be that we start with Asit explaining the detail.
Yeah.
And post that Himanshu and myself will, at the end, maybe 1 or 2 minutes will add up to the explanation.
Good evening to you all. It's a lot of learning. We debated quite a bit. We represent Group 6, Rajesh, Himanshu, and Asit. And we have done some research in the area of goal-focused coaching, multiple models we saw, as well as various models which represent the goal focus. I want to tell you, as you are all aware, coaching is a collaborative approach, and it's focused on desired solution expected by the client, which is we have learned actually. So coach facilitated the process systematically to enhance the performance, which will lead to the personal growth. End of the day, these are every sentence, if I walk, basically is a collaborative approach. Second is coach is a facilitator, and systematically he works along the client to ensure, because this is, we are talking about goal focused coaching. Am I right? Goal focused coaching is our topic. So, so then what is the goal? Basically, the focus area for desired state, because the client comes to us with a desired state and expectation to achieve certain goal, which is in the mind of the client. And there are definitely various aspects we need to cover. So what is actually the goal focused coaching? Goals are internal representative of desired state. And how do you know the desired state? That's a very important thing. And do you think slide share we should do? Then it becomes better.
That would be good.
Yeah. This is, I will.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it visible now? Yeah. Is it visible?
Yes, Sahil sir.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So we are talking about what is the desired state, because as we understand, many times the goals are not very clear in the mind of the client. They may have some vague idea, or they may be desiring or dreaming of a goal that is to achieve. So the process what you learn, it has to be really followed through, and after a couple of sessions with the client, we will be able to understand. So what is basically they do? First is set up a goal, and the setting up a goal itself will understand, because we are not here to counsel or guide in the coaching process. The client himself or herself has to look at various options with the right questioning techniques, and maybe making her understand how to go about it, and then set a goal. That is not enough. At the end of the day, the development of the action plan is where it lies, and the roadmap. As we say, the PERT chart, program evaluation and review techniques are there in our management theory. We need to understand what are the action plans and what is the critical path, and how does one progress. And it's important for the client to celebrate milestone success, because if the goal is very big, that first the client becomes disheartened and probably have an internal doubt in the mind whether he or she can achieve it. So then once the action plans are set into place and then regular follow-up is there, then change what is not working and do more of what is working, and monitor it regularly and evaluate and give the motivation to the client that these are the things working, let's progress it faster, and that way it will be useful. So basically what we are bringing, our team wants to bring in, that values are very internal or influencing higher order goals. So this is very, very important role in finalizing goals. How do we talk about it? Well, basically, to achieve a goal, one can have a shortcuts, but that's not long lasting. And we have seen enough examples in the corporate world where people have really mismanaged to achieve their goal by following, not following the proper values. The example galore in the world, starting from the IT, Mr. Raju, to currently all those people who are Kingfisher Airlines, those people, they all have a goal, they had a dream, but they try to achieve their goal and dream by somehow cutting corners and trying to get their desired goal. So that is why it is important that you should understand value. Then it will lead to a better action plan. So here, if you look at the model that is important here, is that we have to see that the goal selector moderators are Kochi, change, readiness, the stage of change. Is Kochi ready to change from his current state to other one? And what are the stages of change? Is he having cognitive resilience? Is he having ability to focus the task? And then the goal selection process is basically to understand Kochi's understanding and engagement, whether he's engaged or only thinking and not pursuing the path to complete the process. Suitability of coaching agreement and degree of goal selection autonomy. Does he have, there are external influences are there? Is he free to achieve their goal? There are financial parameters will be there. There are multiple stakeholders are there in the organization. Are the stakeholders able to support the person? Many times I've seen in the organization, because I come with 36 years of experience in 7 industry segments. I've closely worked with CEOs, MDs. I've seen many times people have brilliant ideas, and one word in the meeting about when goal is presented, if the MD says it won't work, I have seen in the past, this will not help. In that case, not many people really come out with a clear action plan and justify the point that, yes, this is doable and works. So it is important that at that point of time, the coachee or the client should have clear understanding about how to achieve the goal, so that he or she can defend the process. So So the perceived need of coaching comes here, that there are many companies at a particular point of time when they feel it's required, and people go to C-sections, the C-suits who are really doesn't have many people to bounce off the ideas, and then they need an external intervention to find out how they can go ahead and get their solution with the help of a coach. To attain the goal, basically multiple things are there. One is goal attainment mechanisms, effort, persistence, and task strategies. All three are important. Effort has to be there, and the effort will be there mostly by the client, and he has to ensure to get in the desired path, and task strategies have defined. And in all this process, the coach has an important role to play. So, and then other thing is, what is important, self-regulation cycle, monitor, evaluate, and change if necessary. Course correction required. Everything is not it's in the stone. So wherever the things are required to be changed, that is to be done. So goal attainment moderates a feedback, regular feedback, commitment, ability, and task complexity. If the task is complex, it will need multiple iterations, multiple way of looking at things. Failure is a part of goal attainment process, and failure is not a setback. The client has to clearly understand, yes, people who don't work only, they don't fail. If a person who takes into the unbeaten track, in that case, he or she will have to find some situations which was not anticipated and do the course correction. And so it's important that the changes definitely happen, and preparedness for the future challenges, because sometimes it's unforeseen situation that you are going to a merger acquisition situation, and that you are going to acquire an organization. Even though you do the due diligence, that's your goal, you may or may not understand the full gamut of things what is there. But I have been part of this process of merger acquisition, 3 companies. I've seen, in spite of detailed working, then you find something just hits you, and part of the HR process are more complex, I would say. So then you get the goal satisfaction, and this is like a goal post, and it's a journey. So this is in short this one. So I just want to tell you, there are many benefits of goal focused coaching. So coaching becomes efficient. There's a clarity of thought and outcome, and optimum utilization of coach and coach's time, because times, as you know, a coaching session can be 60 to 90 minutes. And if the coach is not able to work around it, the client can ramble, can continue to have same points number of times. So it has to be by right questioning techniques, and answering his questions wherever there are bottlenecks there, which will increase the engagement. And it's important that the coach and coachee has to have a rapport with each other, then only it works quite better. So in a nutshell, I want to say that all coaching conversations, explicitly or implicitly, are goal focused. That's what we came to know after our discussion, that all the conversations ultimately has some goal and objective in mind. With this, I end the formal presentation, but my team members who have immensely contributed to this discussion process, spanning more than 3 days in different period of time, if they want to discuss and bring out some points, I'll be happy. Thank you.
Himanshu, can you add, Himanshu, or should I?
Rajesh, I think you should go on. I'm outside and unable to speak at the moment because I am surrounded by a few people. So that'll be good if you can just take it forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, no issue. Just to supplement on what Asit said, the goal-focused coaching, primarily, and at the end, what Asit beautifully summarized, that explicitly or implicitly, the coaching is goal-based. So what does it differentiate with? The differentiation probably is in the approach towards the humanistic coaching, what Mary has started in the beginning. The focus being on the human aspect, the emotion aspects, the person, the empathy, being non-judgmental. But what does it lead to? So even if we link it to or contradict with humanistic approach, there would be, even in the humanistic approach, the person's own goal and realization could be that he wants to get into the higher self. Or maybe he has a certain icon towards which he wants to move up. And then it becomes a goal-focused coaching. While technically speaking, goal-focused coaching seems to be a little more mechanistic, little less humanistic. But even in the humanistic side of the coaching or humanistic focus of the coaching, it's the goal only which ultimately comes into the play. And in terms of approaches, what I saw that the different approaches, cognitive behavior coaching, Socratic questioning, adult learning theory, this could be methods towards the approach. An approach could be humanistic and the goal-based coaching. So this is my understanding as of now, what I think that, and this all could help towards moving towards goal-based say achievement. So the term per se may reflect that yes, it is a little bit mechanistic, but actually speaking, even when Lata was when saying that client's internal goals sometimes he may not be aware of, and how does it come out into play when we ask certain questions? Maybe it's Socratic questions. Maybe we are using the methodology of the cognitive behavior science, relaxing him. What Raghu was saying, that relaxing him with various mindfulness techniques. So all this would help him realize what is in his mind, and then it becomes again a goal-focused coaching. So that's the reality, and that's reality of goal-based. Only thing that impasses, the difference of the impasses in the approach. So this is the primary theme of the goal-based coaching, what I understand.
Fantastic. I think this is really a very, very solid, robust job. Yeah. Very robust job. Thank you, Asit and Rajesh. Both of you have added value and structure to the whole, goal-focused coaching. And we'll pick up any questions that are there. Before the questions come in, I just want to kind of also highlight that research also suggests that when you look at characteristics of research done in terms of characteristics of effective coaches, right? There is research that has come out that it's at the end of the day, when the focus is on the client's desired outcomes and goals, that is likely to, therefore create, that's a key to the positive outcomes, right? It's not, while of course the relational piece is critical, right? And the unconditional regard is critical, and deep rapport is critical. But this has to, go beyond that and also create outcomes. And that's when that's been, that's one of the key characteristics. So it has to be goal focused. It has to create some positive outcomes for the client, and there is research for that. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, questions for Asit or Rajesh?
Too much of work Ashif ji has done on his presentation, and it was very well summarized.
Yeah.
Great effort.
It summarizes all the learnings what we kind of underwent till today, in a way.
Yes. Yes. And I liked also what Rajesh brought in terms of, bringing in the consolidation of all the other theories. And really, saying, okay, this is what I have therefore picked up, that and we have picked up that, all of it has to go in there. The rest of it are the means to creating outcomes, right? And that is really the whole idea of us having this towards the end and seeing that this is in a sense a culmination. Yeah. So any other questions for them? I'm just going to put up a slide just to kind of get you to also do just give me a second. This may be useful, and then we'll go into, before we go, I'm just going to put up this self-assessment that you can do for yourself. Yeah. And just start, on a scale of 1 to 10 to, pick up the coaching that you're doing today and just see where you feel you are on this, because then that gets you a sense of, okay, what else I may need to do. And, if you can see the small abbreviations, the short forms that are there, O, O, W, A, and all that, I'll tell you what is the meaning of that, okay, later. But you can pick up the sentence and quickly, let's not spend too much time. It's 2020. If we can, kind of,
Sorry, ma'am, I didn't quite understand what we're supposed to do on
no, what
here.
I want you to do, okay, thanks for asking that, Nama, in case anyone else wants. So, read the first sentence. It will say, my coaching is always effective in helping my coachees reach their goals, right? So, you must have seen, done whatever is your buddy coaching sample of, evidence that you have. And you can say, yeah, on 1 to 10, I can say, yeah, I'm at 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever is a number. So you know that, where right now you are, how you perceive yourself in terms of being goal focused. So it's just a self-assessment. So once you do the first set of 6 questions, you can also take the second set. I'm not giving you any kind of scoring key to total it, etc. Okay, I mean, it's common sense. You can go back and then check it out, okay, what does that add to, what does this add to? But the idea is to also pay attention to the specific sentences which you are scoring, let's say 5 or less than 5, and knowing that maybe that's what I need to work on, which may help me become more goal focused.
So there are multiple things. For example, like when we look at it, is it only one thing we have to choose, or is it more than one? If you can please clarify.
Yeah. First, let's complete this, right? So let's take each sentence. Let's okay. Let's all complete it. Take each of the sentences. Raghu, right? Raghu, take each of them. Take sentence 1. It says, my coaching is always effective. So just say, okay, is that 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest? Put a number there. Okay. Then take 2 and then say, my coaches do not seem to value the time we spend. My coaches do not seem to value the time we spend having coaching conversations. Right?
Yep.
So there again, if you see, that's okay. So that, if you see, is a negative statement. My coaches do not seem to value the time, and that may be a challenge. So you can put another, you can say, okay, that seems to be very high, that my coaches don't seem to be valuing my time.
Yeah, if it is higher, then that becomes a negative quotient.
That becomes a negative quotient.
Right.
Then take the next one. You say, I know how to create an environment in which coaches feel free to present their own ideas. And the fourth is, I purposefully use language that shows I understand my coaches' feelings. And while, they may seem like, okay, I have to choose one of the sentences, I want you to put numbers for each of those so that, you have a scale for each of this. Fifth one, by the end of a coaching session, my coaches always have greater clarity about the issues they face. And when coaching, I spend more time analyzing the problem rather than developing solutions.
Right. So the ones with an R basically indicates the negative quotients over there.
Yeah, I mean, the reverse
of it. Reverse of it.
Yeah.
So essentially, the positive and the negative one should yield to one number.
Yeah. If you were look, we have not created a major scoring key out of it. Okay, this is just to create some level of introspection right now in this space.
Yeah.
Okay, so otherwise, I would have told you that for the negative statements, if the problem is very high, then use a reverse scale, right? But right now we're just kind of using it for reflection. So you pick and then you can walk away with 1 or 2 things that you think you want to work on.
5 minutes, you're neither here nor there.
5 minutes, yeah, I seem to do it okay 50% of the time, but there are, there are still areas to work on, right? That's the way I would put it.
So higher is better. Higher score is better.
In the positive sentences, Asit, yeah?
Okay, got it.
And if you have got it now, once you have done all of them, I want you to just note the O relates to the outcomes of coaching. The WA relates to the working alliance, which is the alliance that you built between the coach and the coachee. SF relates to solution focus. G relates to goal setting. MPA relates to managing process and accountability.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So you may pick up, you can, kind of just, maybe I don't encourage taking print shots, but I know a lot of us do. You can just keep that and say, okay, maybe it's, I need to look at whether are we setting goals rightly? Is it about, working on a more solution focused approach?
What is R? Sorry to interrupt you. What is R?
R is the reverse. Yeah, the suggestion is that, you can reverse score it, which means that when, let's say sentence 6, when coaching, I spend more time analyzing the problem rather than developing solutions, right?
Yeah.
If you were to spend more time analyzing, then you may say that, yeah, I spend a lot of time. So you may use the reverse scale, which means 10 being, low and 1 being the highest.
Yeah.
But in there is one thing, like when it comes to the second part, like this is for my clarity. So when we say the goals we set when coaching are always stretching but attainable. But however, this is something, this is where like if it is going to be stretching, this is where coach is accountable, right? Like in the sense, like they might be taking more time to complete it, or more milestones might be getting added as the coaching or the
Yeah, but so Raghu, the question for us to reflect on is to see,
it has happened, but just wanted to
is to ask that when we say always stretching, what does that mean? What is there something that
to retrospect and
did we do the goal setting properly? It could also be that is it that the client comes back each time and says, hey, I want to add something else? So it's useful to kind of go back and see where does that lie.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
So, and it does not mean that, therefore, everything is static, but, if it's happening as a pattern, then we need to go back and check in on our.
Correct. Yeah.
One question, if people have not done the coaching in the true sense, except this buddy coaching so far, it will be their guess, right? Projected things.
Absolutely, right? Because if you have done buddy coaching, just use that example. But like we say, for example, even in the first batch where we've gotten as mentors, we've gotten into the individual coaching. We tell them that, when you're coming for individual coaching, come in after going out and, coach people who are not your buddies. And we'll be telling that to your batch too, right? Because the idea is to also go out of our safe buddy coaching space and just, talk to people and get, and just do some coaching outside the class setting. So for the moment, yeah, I mean, pick up the examples that you have, which may be in your buddy coaching space, but, they may also give you some idea, insight into, our typical style.
We can do a cross coaching between buddy coaching from group number 1 to group number 5. So that will be a new thing, no? Correct?
Yeah, that's also possible. I will share that idea across. Yes, Asit. Yeah, it will help you get coaching hours also. Yeah, but I think there's also a couple of, I remember in some, there are also a couple of other ideas that, I think Hemant is floating in terms of, helping getting more coaching logs. So this is another idea that you can also put in out there, and I'll also share that this has come up from your team. But maybe that's something that the team would be, everyone, would find useful. Yeah. Okay, so now last one. Thank you so much. That was a great session. Let's come to the last one. We're at 8:30. Let's keep time. Seema and team, we're looking at solution-focused coaching. These are theories. Sorry, evidence-based coaching. Yeah. Yes.
So I have Shiv with me, and he's gonna lead the presentation. He's done a thorough research, and I'm sure he's gonna rock it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So do you need these slides, Shiv? Okay, cool.
So basically our topic is evidence-based approach towards coaching. And the idea is that as of now, coaching has the 90%, you can say, philosophy and your personal experience. And basically what is evidence-based coaching and what is the approach towards it? So as the term is pretty simple, the evidence which is backing up your approach towards the problem solving skills. Okay. And if we go for the exact definition, then you can see on the screen also, evidence-based coaching approach in grounded proven science. Okay, it is properly proven, clinical psychology and counseling, and all of it is combined in a proper evidence which can be validated also. It's a tangible evidence. It's not just limited to your client feedback or personal experience or your testimonials, but it is actually compiled with a proper research, experimentation, and analysis of the machines also. Nowadays we are having so many mind mapping machines and all those things. One of the best example that I would like to say, the practical example for the evidence-based coaching is all these things that we have discussed today. All the approaches like appreciative inquiry we have, and we have social cognitive theory. Namaha and the team have mentioned cognitive behavioral theory, therapy, and we have acceptance, appreciative inquiry I have already mentioned, and trans-theoretical model of change is also one of the evidence-based coaching. So this term was actually first coined in 2003 in one of our research. It came up, and it was mentioned in the University of Sydney. Anthony M. Grant, the founder of world's first coaching psychology unit, have mentioned this. And apart from that, it's like if we go on a much simpler term, you can see here, it's basically professional wisdom plus empirical evidence is equals to the evidence-based approach to coaching. Hello?
Right time actually.
Okay, so I'll go for further. We have 4 pillars for evidence-based coaching, which can be simplified. One pillar is the theory, the first one, which has because it is our role to make sure we are providing them awareness, we are giving them the space to express. So that is the first pillar for the evidence-based coaching. Then we have the core competencies from ICF. These are all tried and tested and properly, explained and you can say researched, and then only the competencies have been given to us. So evidence-based coaching will give us a uniformity. It will give us more solid grounds to express, to show the results. At the same time, the practices that we are doing of all these approaches like the CBT and all the other appreciative inquiries, it is all backed by a proper evidence. It is all scientific. It's not just mental and it's not just in the mind, but it is out there with the proper research. So one can have more solid ground with valid proof that this is producing results. It's not just it's not just a pop psychology or your creative thought forms that you are sharing out in the world. It is properly implemented and completely practical with proven basis. I hope I'm making myself clear so far. And going for the coach, the pillar of evidence-based coaching is, of course, the coach also. As we are the coach, it is our duty to make sure that we are practicing all the tools which are tested and having the proper researched. And we are not just, sharing our own limited beliefs or our own biased experience or personal experience, I would say. And then lastly, we have the client, which has to be, client oriented, and client is also one of the, you can say, evidence in one of our in our coaching, because we are all client centered people. We are providing the services which are client centric. Okay. So I have mentioned the references we have taken from. So going towards more detailed, like I have already mentioned, that evidence is not just limited to the feedbacks or evidence testimonials. It is actually far more than that, which is behavioral science, business and economic science, which is backed, like all these things are connected. Everything is properly connected and mentioned properly here. And adult, like one of the group members had this topic as well, adult education, including the workplace, learning and development. And then we have the philosophy. These are the 4 things that are connected and creating the evidence-based coaching, which I have already shared the examples of. Now, I would like my member Seema to explain much further and summarize it.
Sure. Thank you, Shiv. So I'm just going to give you a gist of it. Who we are is how we coach. All right. What I mean by that is our own understanding of our values, characters, ethics, weaknesses, biases, and interests. Okay. One way to do that is through personal reflection. And that's what belief-based coaching is. That's a very traditional coaching approach. Okay, where we use personal experiences, which is based on our individual experience, and the group experience, which is seeking advices from senior coaches. Okay, and that's how we coach. Right now, this is based on the belief that if it's worked for some people, it must therefore work for the rest. Okay, the reasoning here is concluded by trusting the knowledge that we acquire, believing that that's reliable, and using our own interpretations of what we have read or heard from other coaches, primarily senior coaches. There's another technique which is available. It's more powerful technique to that is to use personality and other assessments to gain greater awareness of our own style, interests, needs, stress reactions, and that is known as evidence-based coaching. It relies very heavily on the scientific research, scientific studies, theories as the basis for coaching. Okay, since it is derived from the evidence-based psychology, thus the emphasis is so much, the reliance is so much on the scientific theories which are tried and tested, tests, assessments, etc. Okay, now evidence-based coaching principle also allows for coaching effects to be reliably predicted, tested and verified. This is something which is not common in a belief-based coaching, which is a traditional approach to coaching. Okay, this approach ensures that the treatment and services, when we use as intended, they would have the most effective outcomes as demonstrated by the research basis which we are using it. So what distinguishes the evidence-based coaching from other types of coaching is primarily the usage of the theories, the knowledge of the theories, models, associated tools that underpin what we do as a coach. Okay, so the coach relies a lot on the usage of these theories and scientific researches. Whatever we did since evening, all the 6 theories that we discussed are all part of evidence-based coaching. Okay, we started the session where Ms. Iyer mentioned about values, relationship, relational skills and coaching processes. Okay, there's a high reliance, or it's very relevant to the coaching processes, which is the mechanics on which coaching is built on. Okay, so all in all, it's along with the personal wisdom, evidence-based coaching heavily relies on the empirical evidence, which is coaching specific research and coaching related research. That's about it. Yeah, and you can use these evidence-based coaching for everything, to know about yourself as a coach, to know about coaching, include it in the coaching processes or the skills.